Hello everyone and welcome back to another session of Elden Ring PvP and another weapon showcase. Today we're taking a look at the Cranial Vessel Candlestand. This is a weapon with a very awesome description and an interesting look to it. It has a guy's head attached and his beard is even still in place, so it's interesting to say the least. This is a fun weapon to use though. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. There's a lot to love about it, so let's go ahead and get started. The weapon is acquired in the Giant Conquering Hero's grave, and in the grave it is behind an imp statue you'll have to unlock. I'll have an image on screen showing the location of the grave. As far as the basics of the weapon, it requires 26 strength, 8 dexterity, and 22 faith in order to wield, and it weighs 12.5 units. The skill of the weapon is Surge of Faith, and you are stuck with that because it is a somber weapon. But it's quite a good skill, so I like it a lot. With the weapon, it has at plus 10 a physical base damage of 240, a fire base damage of 240, a B scaling in strength, D in dexterity, and B in faith. So overall, strength faith builds will love this thing. It is a phenomenal weapon. The B scaling in strength is a higher tiered B scaling than that of the faith scaling, so you'll want to be more strength invested as opposed to faith invested on your stats. For me, I ended up having 55-50, I believe, for my stat distribution, and it broke 900 attack rating. There's nothing terribly unique going on with the weapon as far as its motion values is concerned, so we can take the attack rating at face value. Now, as far as the pros of the weapon, it has all the standard Great Hammer pros. So with that, the moveset is definitely one of them that is pretty good, the two-handed moveset in particular. The two-handed R1s come out a bit faster than people expect, especially if you do spam them. People generally don't expect the second, third, or fourth swing. They only expect one, so if you do one swing and then just keep swinging, they will typically run right into you and end up getting themselves hit. So that works out quite nicely. Aside from that, your running R2 will do some pretty good damage. Your jumping R2, of course, does a lot of damage as well. Aside from those, though, the R2 attacks in general are just really good, because with the R2 attacks, people don't expect the follow-up. And with that, you can, like I said with using the R1s, you do an R2, and then you follow up with the second. You can charge it sometimes, and I think part of the reason why people don't expect it is because it's a great hammer, so they expect the slow recovery of the weapon. And with that slow recovery, if you go for a charged attack instead, you hold the weapon in a way that it looks like you're still doing that slow recovery instead of actually preparing for an attack. So that could very well be why a lot of people tend to get hit by it. Beyond that, though, the R1 into R2 isn't a combo in any way, but I've had good luck doing it, because with the R1, people will either do one of two things if you hit them. They will either roll backwards, which is the correct decision, or they will try to roll towards you or to your side, which is the incorrect decision. And if they do that and you follow up with an R2, there's a decent chance you will hit them. Now, as far as the skill of the weapon is concerned, Surge of Faith is quite good. It's basically the same as the skill on Mohg's Great Spear, but instead of it doing bleed, it has a big explosion and then throws fireballs everywhere. With that big explosion, you can deal quite a bit of damage, and repeated inputs will repeat explosions and keep throwing fireballs out there. The explosion is really what you want to aim to hit with. The fireballs themselves are not very good. They don't deal much damage. Typically, they'll only deal between 100 and 200 damage if they hit. I've had people basically point blank on me and dodge through the explosion, and they just backpedal away and don't get hit by a single fireball. I don't know how many times I've had that happen, so keep that in mind when you're using it. They are not something you should rely on. But overall, really fun weapon, thoroughly enjoyable. I don't really see much value to repeated inputs with the skill, to be perfectly honest, because once you have all those fireballs raining down, even though they don't deal much damage, people will generally just back off. So it kind of is what it is. But overall, like I said, really fun weapon, good moveset when it's two-handed. The one-handed moveset I actually take some issue with, and I'll get into that in a second here when I start about the cons. But the hyper armor on the weapon is also decent, so it does let you go for a trade here and there, and that's also worthwhile to do. So, anyway, the cons. First off, the moveset. One-handed is kind of not great. The last fight in this video is a great example of it. I had a guy one hit from death, and I just, for the life of me, could not get the final hit on him. And I will attribute it to the fact that I went with the one-handed moveset. I had a couple of instances where the one-handed R1s just phased right through the guy. That said, that is not the same as the other issue with this weapon, which is that it is quite susceptible to aim punch. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the great weapons in this game are susceptible to aim punch. Basically, with that, your hitbox gets a little bit wonky when you get hit as you're swinging your weapon. It causes your weapon to sort of skew off to the side. There are videos going into better detail on it, so look them up if you're not familiar with it, but it's an issue that heavier weapons do have more so than lighter weapons because of their slower swing speed. So, unfortunately, that is a major downside to this weapon. It is a major detriment. Because it is slower, you'll have that happen more often. Beyond that, though, the weapon itself is a bit slow, so that's of course a con. You can make up for it by going for repeated inputs and trading hits when people try to punish your first missed attack, but at the end of the day, it is a great hammer, so it's going to be slower. It just kind of is what it is. Either way, one other pro I did forget to mention is that the crouch attack when one-handed or two-handed, that 360 spin you do, that's a pretty great attack as well for when people are also rolling around you. So doing a crouch spin sweep hit, can't call it a slash, it's another good attack. This is the last fight in the video. I hope you've enjoyed this video, found it helpful in one way or another. If you have, then do all the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, leave a comment letting me know about what you think about this weapon and what weapons you want to see in the future. Again, though, thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you all next time.